Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome back to Mono to Atmos, and today we are going to be talking about field recording and the power of knowledge. It's important that we understand what knowledge really is, and by knowledge here, I'm not talking about school knowledge because I think there is a bit of a misconception about what really knowledge is. We must understand that whatever it is that we go to school to learn, that is what is known as common knowledge. And common knowledge does not usually result into power. The only thing that truly transforms and results into power is knowledge that has been acquired through other means or hidden knowledge or knowledge that solves specific problems that not everyone else is capable of doing. So, for instance, let me just quickly give an instance where, for instance, the knowledge of driving or riding a boda boda, that is common knowledge. There's so many people who are doing that. So don't expect that because you have that kind of knowledge, you might actually end up getting a lot of returns, or you might end up having power. As you said, knowledge is power. You might not have so much power because that power is divided across so many people, thousands, even upon millions of people. For that reason, no one person can actually yield that power. So we are going to be discussing field recording and the power of knowledge from nuclear science to field recording. And we're also going to look at some examples that come from nuclear science and how maybe we can apply the same examples in field recording. Okay? So you need to understand that you don't have to always reinvent the wheel. All you need to do is look back in time, look at history, and understand what has happened back in time. I remember someone asking me that they studied history in school. So what was the need? Why would they need to study history? History is crazy, crazy important, in as much as, yes, geography will make you understand your normal world. History is critical. It is very important because you understand what has happened in the past, how it was done in the past, problems that happened in the past, and how they were solved. And that enables you to even solve present problems even faster. For instance, today we are going to be talking about nuclear science and how knowledge helped stop the Second World War. And here we're going to be looking at Oppenheimer and Heisenberg. Oppenheimer was on the American side. Heisenberg was on the German side. And there's something very important here that we also need to talk about. Knowledge in itself cannot do much. Knowledge just by itself is meaningless. Okay? But knowledge that solves problems is what is required. So even in the field of field recording, you need knowledge that can be able to solve problems. So it's not just about having knowledge about microphones and knowledge about signal processing and signal flows and knowledge about or even having the most expensive gear. Here we are talking about having knowledge that is solving a problem. The other thing that you require so that you're able to yield power, and by power I mean money. Let's just there's no power in terms of strength that we are going to do arms wrestling. No. By knowledge equals power means knowledge equals money. So what kind of money are we talking about here? You don't acquire money just because you have rare knowledge. Money will find you because your knowledge is solving a problem, but you also need to link up and meet with the people with that kind of problem. Okay. So for instance, if in the case of Oppenheimer, he had nuclear science knowledge, but the government had a problem. And for that reason, it was easy for him to link up with the government because he had knowledge that solved their problem. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say something critical here that you also need to understand. Every time you see people promising you big money where there is no problem, you don't have the knowledge to solve that problem, and it is not based on a relationship, there's a problem. The only way to acquire anything in this world is through a relationship. A quick example is this. Everything you ever want in this world is with someone. Everything I ever want in this world is with someone. And how do I get what others have? And how do they get what I have? Because I'm in the service industry, that means I need to have knowledge and I need to meet people who have a problem. And I need to establish a relationship with the people who have a problem. And I need to meet with people who in actuality have a problem. So that whatever knowledge it is that I have is able to solve their problems. And based on the kind of relationship that we have, whatever it is that they have will come to me. And whatever it is, knowledge and solutions that I have will go to them. So we see this clearly when we look at how the Second World War was ended, when an atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And this was a result of the knowledge of Oppenheimer. And yeah, he regretted this after he had seen what happened, because eventually he says, he quotes the Bhagavad Gita where he says, I am become death, the destroyer of worlds, after he saw the tests of the atomic bomb and the devastation that the atomic bomb was able to cause. On the other end, remember, we had Heisenberg, who was in Germany, but Heisenberg was not very successful. And the power of knowledge is this. Because Oppenheimer was able to develop the atomic bomb faster than Heisenberg was, the Second World War came to an abrupt end, not because of military might, but because of knowledge. And this is what I'm talking about. We need knowledge about field recording and how to do it. And again, we need producers and directors who understand the problem that surrounds field recording and problems that surround film, especially with regards to matter sound. I will tell you this for free. In Africa, we have one of the worst sound designs, and the sad part is that we're actually celebrating some of these things in terms of, I will just point you to maybe your favorite advertisement. Go look at it. Yeah, beautiful visuals, beautiful set design, but you listen to the sound, it's crazy. It's terrible. Your favorite trailer, go and check your local favorite trailer from an African country. By Africa, I mean sub-Saharan Africa. I'm not talking about South Africa because those giants are on a completely different level. I'm talking about sub-Saharan Africa. Go get your Kenyan favorite trailer and watch it, listen to it, and see how bad the sound design is. This clearly tells us that the people who have been given this responsibility of creating these films completely have no understanding on matters audio, and they only concentrate on visuals. And this is directly towards producers and directors, because again, a producer is supposed to assemble the team that can best deliver this audiovisual works. They need to be able to bring in a director with a very clear audiovisual vision. But you realize that in our industry, we are so concentrated on the visuals, and there's very little understanding on the audio. But this is an audiovisual works. It's not just visuals. It's not just the camera. So you find people so concerned about the camera, concerned about the set, concerned about the wardrobe, concerned about the food. Then they completely forget the audio work, and this can clearly be seen on the trailers, because the trailer is maybe 1 minute, 30 seconds, or 2 minutes, and you realize that sub-Saharan film trailers are in the worst possible sounding states. And even just your favorite advert, beautiful visuals, but when you come to sound design, they usually just let maybe the editor do it or give it to any sound guy, because they think they have not, because the producers and directors of our time and in sub-Saharan Africa have not come to a place where they understand the problem with sound. They don't yet see the problem with sound, and that's what we're going to be talking about here, the solutions that we have for sound design. And sound design begins with field recordings. Let me also just point this out. The reason why, again, it would be very hard for anything from sub-Saharan Africa to penetrate into the global market is because we have not yet come to a place where we respect IP. So, for instance, when someone is given a film to go and do sound, post-production sound, they go and download sounds from wherever place on the internet, or you just pirate, or that is very dangerous the moment you start trying to go into the global scene, because the moment you start getting into the global scene, the globe actually respects intellectual property. So when you just go out there and on the net, get some wind sound and put it on a high budget film, it's going to be very problematic, because at some point it will be scrutinized and you'll be found to have infringed on copyright, because you used wind that you don't have proper permissions. So it's very important that we understand, for us to actually get to break into the global scene, we need to start taking IP, which is intellectual property, very seriously. We also need to start taking sound design very seriously, because sound design, it means the person doing this sound design needs to go out and record their own sound such that they actually have IP over those sounds. You can imagine you're part of a $200 million project, and then you go online and download a car sound. But this car sound has IP on it, has very respective IP, because it was recorded by someone else. You didn't go through the terms and conditions, and you did not understand that you cannot use this for commercial purposes. And if you're to use it for commercial purposes, then you needed to maybe inform them or credit them. It's very important that you understand the IP rights on everything. And that is why the easiest way to actually approach some of these things is you go out there with your own microphones and record. Okay? And for this reason, that's why I keep saying knowledge is power. And the problem with sub-Saharan Africa, again, is the knowledge base. And I know that times are changing. I'm seeing the move of the Gen Z, and they are actually asking for accountability. The Gen Z are actually asking for, proper governance. It means our eyes are opening. Just the other day, Super Metro Matatu knocked someone down. And I saw people claiming this is a life and this life needs to be respected. And what happened because of 30 shillings was terrible. And I am happy that our society is rising. Okay, so let's look at a few things about location field recording. Okay, and some essential equipment that you will need for field sound recording. And I know we've covered quite a number of these things. If you go and look at when we talked about shotgun microphones, and we also talked about what are they called? Dynamic microphones. Very soon we'll be talking about lavalier microphones or lapels. We'll also be talking about large condenser diaphragm microphones. An example is this one here, and we'll be doing a sound comparison of some of these microphones. But today, before we get to talking about those microphones, let's quickly just look at essential equipment for field sound recording, and we're going to be talking about microphones at this point. But again, I also want to say this is very important, especially for you if you're a director or you are a producer, so that you actually understand. If you have a high budget project, maybe that has come from outside or from the States, from Europe, or it's a partnership, and you're required to do full sound design, you need to understand how to properly budget for it, because in as much as, yes, you're doing location sound, there is sound field sound design that will be required to be done. And with this, if it's a high budget project, you actually need to own IP on all your sound recordings, or else you might be in trouble. The other thing I also want to mention is this. IP is actually the way to go in the future for those who think you need to figure out how to become wealthy. I understand Africa is just a concrete jungle where you get your first 100 million, you go build a house. But I will tell you this, most of these billionaires you see out here, they're not billionaires because they built houses. They're billionaires because of intellectual property. We need to figure out how to harness our knowledge and move towards intellectual property, where we own property that is from our intellect and we are paid royalties on the same. So essential equipment for field recording, let's talk about shotgun microphones. I know I've shown you what a shotgun microphone is like, and there's quite a number of shotgun microphones. So you need a shotgun microphone, which is highly directional and used for dialogue and focus sound. And then we have lavalier microphones, and we need a stereo microphone, especially in this age. Remember, we are now in the age of immersive audio. It is sad that Sub-Saharan Africa is still doing what Hollywood was doing in the 1920s. Sub-Saharan Africa is still doing mono, and the saddest part of it all is that we still celebrate this style of audio. Every year you see these awards and people are being celebrated for having done mono works. It's quite absurd. How can we be doing things that were done in Hollywood in the 1920s and expect that we are able to go global? We are living in the immersive age, and it's time that we change. It's time that we start figuring out how to move into the immersive sound space, which involves Dolby Atmos, the Sony 360, the ambisonics, and the binaurals. So you need stereo microphones. These capture soundscapes and ambiances naturally. And I'm sure we will be going to the field and you'll be able to see some of these things. We need maybe a parabolic microphone, which is used for the recording distant sounds. So there's microphones that are called parabolic microphones that you can use to record birds and the like. The only thing about parabolic microphones is that they're not able to record low frequencies, because they're able to capture sounds that are distant, but the problem with that distance is the waveforms of low frequencies are really wide, they're unable to capture. Then we have contact microphones specialized for capturing vibrations, and these contact microphones, you can use them to capture, let's say, the sounds of a bridge, the rattle in a bridge, or basically just vibrations. Anything that requires vibrations, you could use even, for instance, you want to record the sound of a car engine, you could use a contact microphone. We have hydrophones. Hydrophones are used for recording underwater. And then ambisonics that are used for ambisonic microphones. These are used for immersive 3D audio environments and ideal for gaming and AR and VR. Maybe I could quickly just show you an ambisonics mic that I have that we'll be using in the field. This is an ambisonics microphone, and so I have this fur that it's a dead cat that helps with killing noise. Let me just show you. It has 4 capsules. This is called first order ambisonics, or ambisonics A. So let's just quickly have a look at it. So this is an ambisonics microphone. As you can see, it has multiple microphones, and this you can use to capture immersive soundscapes for 3D audio environments, ideal for gaming, VR, 5.1. You can use it to capture 7.1. You can use it to capture Atmos and 360 sounds. And this is what it looks like. So you need microphones like this when you're going out in the field. And so you need audio recorders. Let's just quickly talk about audio recorders where you're going to capture your sounds to, there is mid-tier, there is professional. It doesn't matter as long as you're able to capture your sounds without distortion. You could always capture 16-bit 44 100, or you could always capture 24-bit 48 100. Other people want to capture very high sample rates. Some people want to capture, you can always capture in 32-bit, and some people try to capture at 192 kilohertz. It's up to you. It's your preference. Just ensure that you're not getting clipping, okay? And also the where you're gonna take it and the kind of manipulation that you're gonna do on these sounds is important. So that is up to you. You have to figure it out. There's no best standards. It's just upon you to decide. Sometimes you might need a time code system, especially when you're syncing your sounds to a camera. You might need a time code system, but because for me, field recording, we are not going to be having the camera involved because we're going to be capturing soundscapes. In fact, in our first outdoor field recording exercise, I'm hoping we'll be capturing traffic. I'll be showing you how to capture traffic. We'll be using stereo configured microphones, and we'll have multiple microphones out there and just figure out how do you capture ambiances. But also I want to mention this thing that times have changed, and I remember a while back we didn't have a lot of pollution. And remember, noise pollution in any recording is something that is unwanted. So for instance, when we will be capturing traffic, something that really we have to be very careful not to capture is music, because some cars have music blasting and some boda people have music blasting, and music is just is something that you don't want to capture in when you're doing your ambiances because you don't have IP rights over that music, and it's going to be a problematic thing if you capture it in part of your ambience, unless now when you capture that you add other music on top of it so that it's not intelligible. You're not able to completely tell what kind of music is playing in that ambience, because you'll end up having copyright issues. So we have boom mics, which are overhead, ideal for dialogue capture. These are microphones that you can have. Lavalier mics, which can be hidden, especially if you're doing a film on location. And this I want to be very categorical with. If you're doing a film on your own location, always make sure you have a boom mic and everyone with a line has a lavalier mic, because it's going to save you a lot of problems, and I mean in post. But also make sure that they're well hidden and you always have wind protection on them if you're shooting outside. Then we have where do we use some of these sounds that we record outside? So you might use them in games. You might use them in especially gaming environments. You need all these ambiances because they're usually not there in film, especially when you're doing your sound design, because whenever you're capturing dialogue on location, you're mainly capturing the dialogue. You're not capturing ambiances. Here you'll capture a bit of room tone and you'll capture a bit of wild tracks, but the sound design needs to be done to tell where the placement of these locations are. Most of the time when let's say your recordings are being done in Hollywood, they're done in studios. Even in Kenya, some people actually record in studios. They build sets in studios, but you need to create a sound design for that specific scene, such that if it's in the middle of, let's say, the town, but it was shot in a studio, you're able to develop the environment, the sounds that surround the building or that environment. And this you need to go out there and record. If you can download, but make sure you look at the IP rights that you can be given, whether you are allowed to have it for commercial use or not, for global use or not, what kind of restrictions there are. And the best way to avoid this is to actually just go out there and record your own. So other things that you will record are like footsteps, creature sounds. So you could go record a bird, slow it down in post, and mix it with a crocodile sound and come up with crazy creature sounds. So sound design and field recording actually go hand in hand. And the other thing that also maybe I want to mention is there's a library called the Boom Library, and if you get time, go have a look at it. The sound collection is about 19,000 euros. If you want to use their sound collection, for one studio, or for one, so assuming this is the studio for just this one studio. If I want to use all their works in the 5.1, I will need to pay $19,000. These are the costs that are involved with sound design and some of these things, especially when you're supposed to have global distribution, and also so that you're not sued because of copyright. You have to pay these crazy amounts of money just for one library. So you can actually start to understand the craziness of field recording, the importance of field recording, and even how other people out there are making money due to field recording. So let's quickly look at also, so we also use some of these recordings on animation. So animations usually don't have their own sound. So every time you see an animation, all the sound design is done from field recordings, and even just and what do we mean actually by field recordings? That's a recording that is outside the studio, so it's not in any controlled environment. So it's a recording that will be done outside the studio. So animation is clearly one of the places where field recording is a must. You can't do without. But I will challenge you to look at, there's an animation that was done and I think was supposed to go for the Oscars. I watched the trailer. I wondered what happened. Why was there no sound design done to it? I've not watched the actual film, but I could tell you there was very little works in terms of animation and Foley, and that makes us just, we need to start questioning ourselves as Sub-Saharan Africa. What are we trying to do, and are we able to do it to the highest level possible? In conclusion, let me say this. The true power of knowledge. The power of knowledge lies not in possessing it, but in applying it effectively and ensuring that others believe in its value. Okay? The power of knowledge is not just about me knowing about field recording and having all the equipment. It's about other people who see the problem and they think I am able to solve that problem for them. So also it means I need to create proper relationships with people, because that is the only way that I will get what people have and people will get what I have. Money always follows relationships, and money always follows problem solving, and you cannot solve a problem when you don't have adequate knowledge to solve that problem. What is common knowledge might not fetch you much. What is rare knowledge and big problem will actually fetch you quite some amount. So if you want to get into the field the field of sound, you must understand that first of all, the first thing to do is acquire knowledge, acquire the skill set, and find a niche where you are solving problems. Find people who actually have these problems and want them solved, and then there would be an exchange of money, and hopefully that might also end up making you powerful. So let's meet in the field, where we'll be talking about how to actually go about recording traffic. We'll be just in our neighborhood recording 1, 2, 3 things with equipment. If you want to look at some of the equipment that we'll be using a shotgun microphone. We'll also be using small condenser diaphragm microphones in stereo configuration. We'll also be using ambisonics microphones, and it's going to be an interesting time because we'll be looking at how maybe to capture sounds for maybe a library. You want to create a sound effects library, or you want to do sound design for a specific film that is coming your way, and you want to make sure that you're not using things that you don't have copyright for. That will be the best place for you. So until next time, my name is Lawrence. See ya.